Okay, hello, gang. Chapo coming at you. But before we start the show, just a little bit of house cleaning. We rarely do this because of how much we despise it. But we are giving you an opportunity to call in and submit questions to us. So here are the following instructions. In the next week or so, we are doing yet another call-in show. So here's how we're going to do it this time. We've run this in various ways in the past, but we're going to do it. Pay close attention to these instructions. If you would like to submit an audio question for us to be aired in a future episode, record a message of under 30 seconds, a voice memo on your phone, fill out the voice memo, and record a message of no more than 30 seconds. If it is even 1 second past 30, it will not even be listened to. You can record. You don't have to do a voice memo. You can do Audacity, any method that you would like of recording audio. Record your question of under 30 seconds and email it to calls@chapotraphouse.com. You can please put the subject of the question in the subject line of the email and maybe a brief description of what you're asking for in the email body. But if the text is longer than like 3 or 4 lines, we will also be immediately deleting it. So keep it simple. Okay, so you will have 24 hours from the moment this episode is published to midnight tomorrow, Tuesday, October 25th, to submit your questions. So say again, email your audio questions to calls@chapotraphouse.com within the next 24 hours, and you will stand the best chance for having your question aired and answered by us on a future call-in episode. One more time, an audio message of no longer than 30 seconds, emailed to calls@chapotraphouse.com, subject of the question in the subject line of the email. Okay, let's start the show. Greetings, friends. It's Monday, October 24th. We've got Chapo coming at you. Me, Matt, and Felix, as usual. And I suppose to kick off this episode, I'd like to talk about, Halloween is coming up. The crisp chill in the autumn air augurs dead souls coming back to haunt the living. And this spooky season, it seems to me like Americans are more frightened than ever. What are they afraid of? Well, I'd like to talk about 2 things Americans are afraid of. The first is murals in schools that possibly contain demons, and the other is voting. So just 2 things on Americans' mind. But the first story of Halloween defright comes courtesy of a Michigan high school. They commissioned a high schooler, to draw a mural for them, and that's where our story begins. Have you guys seen this story?
Yeah,
I was too scared. I was too scared to read
a
it.
bone-chilling 13-year-old, I believe, drew some type of mural, like the type of mural that you see in any school or like under any bridge where some part of your city is doing an urban renewal project, just something you like walk by. And I think a dozen people have been sucked into hell through it. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
That's the number as of the time of the recording.
Yeah, there's been the hellmouth has been opened by this horrific, Bosch-like canvas of demonic horrors. Let's just read the article here. This is courtesy of NBC News. A high school artist was chosen to paint a mural. Then came the outrage. A mural painted by a high school student came under fire when parents alleged it was promoting LGBTQ imagery and witchcraft. Earlier this year, a Grant, Michigan high school sophomore won a contest to brighten up the middle school health center, according to a statement from Grant Public Schools. Grant Public Schools said the student received approval to paint images of smiling children, as well as the message, "Stay healthy." Okay, well, I mean, that's a problem right there.
That's pretty fucked up. You're going to tell me that health is better than being sickly? You're going to tell me that is a superior state of being?
This is neither here nor there, but isn't it kind of funny that conservatives did like the current fat activism that we see now when Michelle Obama did the school lunches? I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was 10, 12 years ago. The Michelle Obama, hey kids, how about eating vegetables? And then they were like, how dare you tell me, to do my bodies in spaces. But now that everyone's obsessed with seed oils and soy and shit like that, they're like, can we get some vegetables for kids, please? Sorry. Kids, they would be eating carrots and celery and things like that, but no, their souls are being sucked into hell through murals.
Yeah, it's tough. No one wants that to happen. You send your kid off to school, hoping that they'll be like a Rudy type walk on to the football team. Maybe that maybe they'll make friends with a chemistry teacher, develop a business relationship that goes past that. Maybe they find another boy and they stop smugglers. The things that maybe they'll be euphoria themselves. What you don't want is your kid to be sucked into eternal damnation forever. You can't get them out. You've tried calling the superintendent. They say that they have to call their boss to contact hell.
I mean, well, one thing's for sure. You cannot get your kid's soul back from the underworld at a PTA meeting, although parents are trying. It says here, in the painting, there are 3 children. A boy is seen in a light blue, pink, and white t-shirt, the colors of the transgender pride flag. A girl wears pink, royal blue, and purple, the colors of the bisexual flag. And a second girl is in a rainbow pride colors. It says GPS Superintendent Brett Zuver was a contest judge. He did not respond to an email asking if he understood the meaning of the colors when the student's design was chosen as the winner. GPS said the final mural included some features that were not part of the agreement, including a demon face inspired by a popular video game called Genshin Impact. Felix, are you familiar with Genshin Impact or any potential demonic influences?
I've heard of it. I've never played it. It's like I think it's one of those games where you play as a girl who's like just not dressed right for her mission of beating up monsters. She's wearing like a pencil skirt and she has a big sword. If it's the one I'm thinking of, people always send me angry emails when I get the premise of these types of things wrong.
But is the video game demon related?
Okay. Well, oh wow. Okay. I don't think this is. I think if there's any demons in this, the girl in the pencil skirt is fighting them. Okay. Chapter 3, the Traveler. I guess that's the pencil skirt girl's name. I would change into some type of pants doing that if you're traveling. She departs for Sumuru in search of Lesser Lord Kunisali. She realizes she's the Dendro Archon. That sounds a little demon, but yeah. I mean, it sounds like she's fighting demons. I don't know. What do I know? I've never played this game.
Dendro Archon. So the hair demon? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's this awful demon that when it curses you, you have to use Head and Shoulders, which is one of the worst smelling shampoos. It makes your hair really dry.
So it contained a demon face from the popular video game and also a Hamsa hand, also known as the Hand of Fatima or Hand of Mary. The palm-shaped design has been a symbol for good luck or protection for centuries in many cultures, including Latin America. Okay, that sounds like Catholic devilry to me. So that's one possible demonic influence, and then one absolutely confirmed demonic influence in this high school mural. Going on here, it says, at a school board meeting on October 10th, parents accused the student artist of promoting witchcraft by including the Hamza hand as well as the video game character that bears the likeness of a demon. Parents also objected to the use of LGBTQ colors. I put my art up there to make people feel welcome, the student artist said, her voice breaking, and footage captured at the meeting by WZZM TV, a local news station based in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
I put my art up there to make people feel welcomed.
That's how Grant High School student Evelyn Gonzalez describes this mural. She painted it inside the middle school's teen health center, and parents are concerned about some of its content.
I feel like she did a really good job finding excuses to defend the things she put on. None of us are that stupid.
Parents allege the video game character is actually a depiction of Satan and that the hand symbol is demonic, with several even using the word witchcraft to describe it.
That's not what I'm a part of, and that's not what I'm trying to put out there.
As for the transgender flag, one parent implied it's a sickness.
When adults pretend things that are like real life, it's a mental illness. We need counselors. We need the medication that's going to help bipolar disorder, fix their brains.
With another saying it's discriminatory against Christian beliefs.
We and our administration should embrace that and get all of this hate material out of our schools, because it is hate material.
I feel she did a good job finding excuses to defend the things you put on. None of us are that stupid. Okay, to that unnamed adult at this parent-teacher association meeting, I can assure you that you are that stupid. And I guess like this story has left me in feeling fairly bleak, because it's just sort of like it's 2022 now, and it seems like pretty much half the country is convinced that witchcraft is real, and in basically like teachers and students at local high schools are agents of the devil. I mean, the way I guess the best way I saw this described is mostly middle class or well-off people in the wealthiest nation in the 21st century now have fully the mindset of medieval peasants, but without any of the socioeconomic justifications for it. So, I mean, what do we make of this? What do you make of this country descending into like the total ignorant savagery of just like, just being haunted by literal demons and witchcraft, and seeking to sort of prosecute seeking to prosecute children essentially for doing devilry to them?
Everyone is exactly, or not everyone, just like a very big part of this country is like as stupid as people were when you used to have like 13 kids because 10 of them were going to die. I don't know. I got to say it's the phones. It's a ton of things, but phones aren't helping. You have the conditions of like this vague feeling that you're at the end of something, that you got in at the end of something, that like it just gives you this like ambient shitty feeling. And I mean that you're already going to do goofy shit and like, at best irritate people, at worst like kill somebody because someone told you that they levitated. But when you have this feeling that you're at the end of something and you're given the opportunity to like solve a puzzle created in a collaborative fiction environment by people exactly as stupid as you, this will be like the exact outcome.
Yeah, I mean, people are trying to figure out what's going on. Why do they feel the way they do? And there's no help coming from any of the institutions that are supposed to generate our collective reality, because they have been delegitimized by the fact that they keep telling you that everything's okay, which it clearly isn't. And so where are you going to go to find an answer? And the only place is to the people who you have the most like cultural affinity with, because they're the ones you're going to be able to communicate most effectively with. And what are they getting? Where are they getting their ideas? Just they're pulling them off of the fucking junk pile of information that's being dumped into their face by people trying to make a fucking buck off of them. And then they're going to create their own narratives that have the benefit of being against whatever, discredited mainstream structures exist, but have a base in just their ambient cultural anxieties. So they'll never be able to address like any real sources of their disquiet. They can only find a scapegoat, because that's the only path forward. Like, you can't meaningfully confront the people responsible for anything going wrong in this country. You can go and make a fucking teenager cry at a school board meeting, though. You can do that. Then you can feel like you're doing something because you had the experience of totally owning this demon child.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily like I don't really think like it's like poor people or like working class people or like even necessarily like struggling middle class people doing a lot of this, right? I feel like it's a lot of the times this is people who are comfortable, but just like are kind of aware that the party is going to be done soon without verbalizing. Well, some of them aren't poor necessarily, but they're not confident that whatever comfort they have is going to last. And if they have kids, they certainly don't think their kids are going to have anything like what they had. But it is interesting how many of the people who show up for these things don't even fucking have kids. Yeah, that's the best type of person.
Just be like, if I had a teenager or children at all, I would be terrified of this mural being in their school. And I guess the sinister thing about all this is there've always been like wacky people who are obsessed with things like that Satan is in heavy metal music and shit like that. But it does seem to me like that a real driving force behind all of this is a hatred of children, and like the fact that like this is all done under the guise of preventing children from being abused, and the way they're going to go about doing that is abusing children.
Well, yeah, hating children is hating the future, right?
Yeah, because these people feel like they have no place in the future. So I think it's interesting that schools are now being made like the battleground of this culture war, because I think like every new life represents to these people a future that they won't belong to.
Right.
Or they won't be in.
I don't know. I think the most like the people who had the most like antipathy towards children publicly used to be like the most misanthropic, like Reddit or forum posters, right? Like the r/child free people, or just like before that, the people on Something Awful who coined crotch spawn. You know, people who whether they saw children or not, were not entirely optimistic about their future. I don't know how articulated these people's feelings about the future is, but I don't know. I feel like there is an awareness on some level that the America where you could get like fucking 7 pounds of food for $5 is not going to exist. That the spoils of empire are not going to be as easily won and distributed as maybe they were. But of course, like it's never like verbalized like that, or maybe they're not aware of it in that sense. I don't know if it's consciously something like, oh, there's a future without us. I think for some of the more explicitly like racialized ones, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I feel like for this type of person, like the demon hunting moms and in some cases childless people, it's just this ambient terror. Like when a child finds out about mortality for the first time, a screaming child realizing that one day they and everyone they know will die.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like, previous like, witch panics in American history. And if you were like, some Calvinist psycho in the 17th century living in like what wasn't even like a developed part of New England, like, the witch, basically. You're eating ergot, you're fucking talking to God every day. I could easily imagine how, some widow who has a cow that gives milk and yours doesn't. I could easily understand how that could like manifest into some sort of hallucinatory witch panic. But because, like life was fucking dangerous and hard back then. But I think like whether it's this satanic panic shit now, or like those TikToks about like, oh, if someone leaves a bag by your car, they're going to kidnap you. Do you think this is just sort of like, yeah, on the one hand, we feel like the sort of threads and sort of the tied society together, and our feeling of being assured of the future is less founded than it used to be. But at the same time, overwhelmingly, life in America in the 21st century is unbelievably safe and boring. So, like, is this like you said, this sort of auto fiction in which people can create a reality for themselves that is more, I don't know, vital or terrifying, or like, just sort of exciting, entertaining than the one they currently inhabit?
Yeah, and also talking themselves up to the point where they can enjoy a future of politics where all they're really voting for is who gets to be publicly punished and brutalized, who they get to vicariously enjoy the suffering of, because there's nothing else. There's no other political choices to be made. There's no ameliorating of conditions. That ship has sailed. But we still have the capacity to punish, and the more we are terrified of some self-generated enemy that's internal and is going to get us, the more relief we can feel when we watch them be destroyed by agents of the state.
Well, yeah, now it's like, the people who these people want to punish are like high school kids or younger. I mean, and like, but it's all done under the guise of preventing child abuse. Like, Felix, you talking about the Reddit child-free crotch spawn people. Like, those people genuinely hated kids and wouldn't care one way or the other whether they lived or died. But these people are all claimed to be protecting children while they are carrying out, literal child abuse. I'm sure plenty of it is sexual in nature, but like, so most of it, I would just hazard a guess, is just plain old run-of-the-mill child abuse.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, like, despite what they say, they do hate children. I mean, you don't keep doing the same thing if you don't like it. You don't accidentally, oh, whoops, I made a girl cry. Oh, whoops, I terrified all the kids at my school. Oh, whoops. No, you like doing it.
I mean, I guess this recalls to mind the Travis Scott Astroworld week, Remember like 2 days when like people were convinced that Travis Scott was harvesting souls as part of some demonic energy ritual?
You don't know he didn't.
Did anyone follow up on that? Did anyone follow up on that though?
Yeah, we solved it. We got to the bottom of it. Travis Scott said he'll never do that again.
Okay, good.
And we can move on to other things.
You can move on to this mural that's harvesting souls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, okay, so everyone wants like some type of meaning in their life, like some struggle they can overcome. Every American wants the feeling of wearing shoes that are too tight and then taking them off. Or, you know, even worse, going to see live music and then the concert mercilessly ending to overcome something. But you don't actually want to do the part where you go to the concert or put the shoes on. You need some type of struggle, and it's very easy to struggle against children. You end up,
you fucking rinse kids.
But in general, yeah, you end up struggling against people who it's very easy to struggle against. I think that's sort of the heart of the function of it, of a lot of this stuff. The cause is multi-headed.
I don't know. I mean, it's just like, it seems now we're in a situation in which both sides of like this, I don't know, culture war split in this country regards the other as basically like cannot be reasoned with, cannot be democratically assuaged, and represent a kind of ignorant savagery that is leading to like a full-on like national suicide. And the thing is, I'm not making any kind of moral comparison or equivalence here, but like both sides believe that to be true of the other side and are in their own internal coherent logic basically right about the other. I'm not saying like, I think obviously one is more justified than the other, but the thing is like, if schools and our society in general became more accepting of gay people or transgender people, that would represent in a certain sense an existential threat, not to the lives of these people, obviously, but to their kind of, I don't know, what they would regard as the something that gives their life meaning, which is in a way, like in their minds, kind of like being killed.
Yeah, I mean, they're incompatible social visions, and like the importance that people put on them is, I think, distorted by this weird anxiety field, because it's the only way that they can describe any of the other things going wrong. Like every material cause of anxiety, precarity that we feel is essentially unspeakable. It is unaddressable. So that means every personal conflict is largely intractable for people who aren't able to change their conditions. So this becomes these models, these visions of like social justice or social virtue become the only terrain of any meaningful contest, because politicians are actually addressing them, because there is a sense that one side or another can move them in one way or another. You can vote to get somebody on the school board who will do X or Y. And so this becomes, of course, it becomes the place where the most psychic energy goes, is because it's the place where there is a sense that there is a contest to be won.
Do you think that part of it is sort of the frontier coming home? If we're going to expand it to all factions of politically engaged American life, at least in the mainstream, that like,
absolutely.
Yeah. On one side, the more like liberal Russiagate side has taken on the national security state's posture of looking for traitors and subversion and foreign actors, and weirdly enough, the right-wing side has taken a cue from liberal interventionists. They have almost a Samantha Powers view of the domestic, that they have to rescue children and women from these awful liberals who are now the Taliban. Everyone took cues from the other side and brought home the things that we've been inflicting on the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like if you're the PTA school mom who sees any kind of acceptance of gay or transgender kids as a kind of a threat to your cultural life, I think the response that they're like these people, their solution to that is to threaten the actual lives of everyone else. And as long as we're talking about democracy, let's talk about voting, the other thing that is terrifying most Americans these days. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about, this is a Washington Post piece by Dana Milbank. In Nevada, election deniers prepared to sabotage the midterms. So this is about like just like the spate of sort of poll watchers sort of like a vigilante poll and election integrity advocates that are going to make this midterm election in a lot of states kind of a disaster, or at least like has the potential to be. Like, let's look at this piece. Dateline, Pahrump, Nevada. That's where the all the prostitution is, by the way. If the Nevada midterm elections degenerate into chaos in a couple of weeks, a very real possibility, then Nevada is poised to lead the way. Indeed, the chaos here has already begun. The election supervisors in 10 of the state's 17 counties have already quit, been forced out, or announced their departures. Lower-level election workers have quit in the face of consistent abuse. The state's election staff has lost 8 of its 12 employees. The Republican Secretary of State, who vigorously defends the integrity of the 2020 election, is term limited, and the GOP nominee to replace her, Jim Marchant, leads a national group of election deniers running for office. Marchant is on record saying that if he and his fellow candidates are elected, we are going to fix the whole country, and President Trump is going to be president again. So I guess like how I'm thinking about like this article in conjunction with the school mural one is like in the face of I think largely corporate engineered price crisis that's, referred to on the news as inflation, and a Federal Reserve instigated recession that we're all dealing with now. We're heading into the midterms, like in coming out of a pandemic, going into a recession, at which people's lives are like more precarious than they've maybe ever been. Just drug addiction, just social alienation across the board. And I guess the question is, like, as you look at these things, like our already shitty democracy and just like the basic functionaries of like counting votes and affirming elections are now being sort of hounded out of their ability to do so by people who refuse to accept any democratic outcome that they don't favor. So I guess my question is, how does it feel? And like, where's this all going as America, I think now transforms itself from a fake managed democracy into a very real and authentic non-democracy? Do you think there's a difference between the two? Or like, what do you make of like the vote panic stuff in addition to the satanic panic stuff?
I think it's the only way the only way it resolves is what Marjorie Taylor Greene likes to talk about, the national divorce, but not formally. I think you would just have you're just going to end up in a situation where whatever coalition of political power is able to hold on to state governance in the near future and then codify their rule through their control of the ballots is then going to impose a settlement onto the state in question of these culture questions. The economic questions are going to be, as always, not up for even debate, let alone vote. And people are going to the remaining democracy will be voting with your feet, going to a state whose structures, whose official values are in line with your own, if you can afford it. If you can't, you will suffer under whatever consequences that those systems have, which are going to be about the same the lower you are on the socioeconomic level. It'll be similar to live in any of them. But if you have a little bit of money and you have a skill or you have credentials, you're going to move to where it's amenable, and that will replace voting as like the meaningful act of choosing your representation.
The Great American Divorce, though, it would be unsustainable because states cannot, issue their own currency. They can't. All
that stuff is not. I don't think that stuff's going to divorce. I think you're still going to have some sort of technocratic, probably military-backed, like Matthew McConaughey or the Rock-facing national government. But all real politics will be done at the state level and will be done by these whatever group of interests, whatever collection of agitated middle-class voters connected to local regimes of political and economic power are going to impose on everybody else a sort of permanent settlement that's not going to be up for voting anymore.
I mean, I almost see that as like a transitory step too, though. And I don't know what comes after.
Yeah, no, nothing. I mean, this is all like just steps in a process. Like, there is no more. I don't think anybody can have any more fantasy that there's anything more than a temporary devolutionary development. Like there's no stability. There's no bedrock that anything could be built on. Just people reacting to changing conditions, essentially ad hoc, without the ability to coordinate effectively, without the ability to rely on institutions that have been completely hollowed out. Just basically riffing, just trying to keep the lights on and trying to stay in power, more importantly than anything.
I could see maybe over a 200 or 300 year period walking backwards into the EU, where we do the divorce, and then like after 100 years, like the red states are like, actually, you know what? We don't want to be in a currency union. Like we're going to be using the Amero at this point. The Amero's cucked. We don't want. There's too much debt on it. Fuck the Amero. And then like the Florida, Alabama, whatever confederacy becomes, Italy. There are all these analogs, and then eventually, we walk backwards into an EU type setup where the union of Pennsylvania, New York, Illinois, that's Germany. And the entire currency union reforms, and the finance capital blue supercenter is the Germany that sets all policy. And I don't know, I guess where would Greece be? Or I guess most places would be Greece.
Yeah, Florida would be a good Greece, I think.
Yeah. So I can see us going into that. If you're one of our listeners that's going to live 300 years, let us know if this happens.
Send some messages back in our dreams.
Yeah. If you're an alien who's listening to this in the future, let us know. Were we right? If you're the successor species to humanity, the octopus, lobster, ape hybrid, were we right?
Yeah.
Answers on a postcard, care of Chapo Trap House. Just real quick from the Nevada voting article. It just says here, a few Nevada counties, meanwhile, are in the process of sabotaging their vote counting procedures. After Marchant traveled the state making presentations with false allegations of voting machine fraud, at least 4 counties have taken steps toward abandoning voting machines and running elections by paper ballot and hand counting, a process certain to delay results and introduce more errors. Now, I know Dana Milbank says that, but and look, I think all of the things about how voting machines are rigged or whatever is, bullshit. But I mean, they could be rigged, right? I mean, I guess I don't see that. We should just go back to pulling the lever. I'm tired of.
I never got to pull the lever. I want to pull the
fucking lever. I mean, plenty of other countries do hand ballots too. But look, the point is that the GOP, should they get power again, which they almost certainly will do, is going to go full throttle to. I mean, any remaining shard of democratic consent is a threat to their ongoing power, and they're going to get rid of it in addition to getting rid of Social Security and Medicare. That's going to happen. And I guess as long as we're talking about voting, I mean, where things stand now in the midterms is it's pretty much reverting to form in that the Democrats are going to lose control of Congress. I mean, that's almost for certain at this point. Am I crazy? Do you guys agree with me on that?
Yeah, no, I think it's. I don't know about Felix.
No, I mean, I think it's always been extremely likely that they lose the House no matter what. I still don't know about the Senate. I don't know. Reddit man, John Reddit man hit a skid in the road, so to speak. But he's still I don't know. I still kind of think Reddit man wins. I obviously think Warlock wins. In general, I don't think it's going to be. I think I'm still right because I said I don't think it's going to be a slaughter back in March. I still don't really think it's going to be that. But we'll see. I mean, if we've learned anything, it's that polls absolutely suck.
Yeah,
yeah, that's for sure.
So who knows? It would be hilarious if it was an off-year blue wave. That would be that would be hysterical. It's not going to happen, but I don't know. I feel like there's going to be some surprises in there.
Well, I mean, look, the situation as it currently exists is that the more people who vote generally benefits the Democratic Party, and the less people able to vote benefits the Republicans. And they're going to push that advantage as much as they possibly can, if not outright canceling democracy in states where they have control. So I suppose, dear listener, you're thinking to yourself, look, this is horrible. Even in our sham democracy, just certain things, this is a bridge too far. I would you'd still like to have your vote count even in a fake election. So there's got to be someone on the Democratic side who has made voting their number one issue, and voting rights their number one issue, and they have an organization set up to counteract the disenfranchisement of voters in a state like Georgia. Let's check in on what the Democratic side is doing to preserve democracy. Stacey Abrams' campaign chair collected millions in legal fees from voting rights organization. Fair Fight Action, the nonprofit founded by Abrams, paid her close friend and allies law firm $9.4 million in 2019 and 2020, with 2 more years of billing yet to be disclosed. It's consulting all the way down in the Democratic Party.
Well, this is a new one. Usually you just pay the consultant. I've not seen it done through a law firm. I like Abrams's whole thing, which was like that demographics were going in like, and voting was going in like one direction in Georgia over the last 8 years. And for her to just be like, yeah, I did that. I always thought that was awesome. And it worked in the sense that enough people were like, yeah, she did that. I mean, turnout for early voting in Georgia has been, I think it's been past 2020 and possibly past 2018. I don't know. But I still don't think she's going to win. But she'll be able to be like, hey, look, I did that. I built this whole NGO around it.
The voting rights organization founded by Stacey Abrams spent more than $25 million over 2 years on legal fees, mostly on a single case, with the largest amount going to the self-described boutique law firm of the candidate's campaign chairwoman. Allegra Lawrence Hardy, Abrams' close friend who chaired her gubernatorial campaign both in 2018 and her current bid to unseat Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, is one of 2 parties named in Lawrence and Bundy, a small firm with fewer than 24 attorneys. The firm received $9.4 million from Abrams' group Fair Fight Action in 2019 and 2020, the last years for which federal tax filings are available. Fair Fight Action has maintained that the suit, which ended last month when a federal judge ruled against the group on all 3 remaining claims, served an important role in drawing attention to voting inequities. But some outside the group question both the level of expenditures devoted to a single, largely unsuccessful legal action and the fact that such a large payout went to the firm of Abrams' close friend and campaign chair. Those concerns were heightened by the fact that Abrams' national campaign against voter suppression galvanized the Democratic Party, many of whose top donors helped fill its coffers.
Well, that's the way the world turns. Everyone has a different way of doing things. You know, Republicans have a different way of paying people. It goes through like eight layers, and then you have to like pay the National Enquirer guy for like a woman that a fat guy knocked up. There are a lot of confusing steps, and this is generally how the Democratic ship goes around.
Republicans also love just having a dark money syndicate just buy someone's book in giant pallets.
That's a good one.
And just,
I think Democrats are doing that now, though.
They should. I mean, hey, you know, that's easy money. If you're not doing that, you're fucking up.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, do you really believe it when they're like, Eric Swalwell's book is a bestseller?
Did they claim that Eric Swalwell's book was a bestseller?
I don't even know. I don't even know if he fucking wrote a book, but it just I've seen too many things like that happen, you know? Ooh, Chelsea Clinton's Choose Your Own Mystery book actually sold 20 million copies.
Don't forget on the Republican side that at a certain level, payment is always meted out in sports memorabilia or racehorses. That's a very important figure of Republican graft. But yeah, like, so the Stacey Abrams people are saying that this is a hit piece against her. I mean, like, she's down by 10 points in the governor's race at this point.
Oh no, we need to stop Stacey Abrams. Like, she's doing a great job of that herself. She's walking L.
I would be shocked if she won.
No, she's not going to win.
I mean, so somebody should be fucking, I don't know, challenging the disenfranchisement of voters on a massive scale. But it just seems like this is just like the number one Democrat person who's like, I'm here to stand for voting rights is just, you know, just like how many voters did her group actually register versus how much money did they spend on like administrative costs? It just seems like, yeah, like this is the way things are done. The problems are real, but the solutions, folks, they all involve paying my friend $9 million.
And they don't actually solve anything.
Yeah, no, the solutions, they don't exist.
Yeah. The solution to me not having a houseboat, that exists.
I do have to say, though, early numbers suggest my Warlock pick is dead on.
I will say it does look like Warlock might have cast a deadly spell on the voters of Georgia and won, which is honestly too bad because I was really looking forward to Herschel Walker in the Senate going ham.
That would have been, oh, man.
It's like time to do a citizen's arrest of Charles Schumer with like a fucking badge he got out of a Cracker Jack box.
Putting an M60 machine gun in Dianne Feinstein's mouth.
That's just good old wholesome fun.
You know, we didn't talk about, like, the last episode when we talked about sheriff's departments. I mean, in Exhibit A in the case against should sheriff's departments exist is that they gave that fucking moron like a badge and were like, yeah, you're a cop now.
Yeah,
you can help us in this county.
There was a great video where he was standing right next to like one of those sheriffs who's shaped exactly like Grimace, and the guy was like, well, here we go. For all the people who doubted, I am declaring that Herschel Walker officially has a wife-killing license in Georgia.
I guess though, like, you know, as the polls tighten up, or like, you know, I think we're all on the same page here. Is that, like, you know, the GOP is going to take back control of Congress, but it's not going to be like a complete washout for them. But at the same time, it's like if you look at like polls to the extent to which we take them seriously, it does seem to me that like among the normal white contingent that we're so interested in as a demographically powerful voting bloc, it does seem that their concern has shifted away from abortion being criminalized to cereal is too damn expensive and gas and things like that.
Polls suck. Don't care until whatever happens. But I mean, yeah, I mean, like we said, even when the Democrats are doing better in stupid polls, all they really have is abortion, right? Because what is their straightforward message on any economic issue? They don't have any. There's nothing that they can really say. Abortion was always the only thing that they really had.
Well, I mean, like now they're looking at a situation in which they're like, you know, they know what's going to happen in 2023, which is that the Republicans are going to use the debt ceiling to, you know, basically force cuts to Medicare and Social Security. Their response to that, well, we definitely can't get rid of the debt ceiling. We got to keep, yeah. I mean, just a debt house with no debt ceiling, the rain will just get in on all my debt. Yeah, but I mean, but once again, I think that's probably because they would like to cut Social Security and Medicare themselves. But the Republicans are going to force them to do it by holding the nation's debt hostage.
Oh, darn it! Oh, geez, you're really twisting my arm here.
And you know, like, you know, the Federal Reserve is conjuring. They got the Volcker summoning circle right now. They're conjuring a recession right now, and they're saying it quite openly, because you know they need a recession to deal with inflation. Haha, or so they say. I mean, it's really a recession intended to discipline the labor force. I mean, you could have deflationary measures by taxing the wealthy. That would bring prices down, or like that would, you know, the dollar would be worth more in that case. But like, what do you guys make of just inflation as the number one issue that people are concerned about, or that the politicians have to pretend to have to deal with?
I think that it's a valid sexual practice. I understand that sometimes people get triggered seeing it, like the Fulton Street Fair or something, but you know, it's not harmful. Doctors have assured me that the testicles can be inflated repeatedly without damage. So I think people just need to stop yucking people's young.
I mean, what is there to say about it? It's not surprising that it's an issue. It's like the exact type of thing that would piss voters off. Yeah, regardless of whether you go like, okay, we were due for inflation. We had a red hot equities market with weirdly low inflation for forever. Whatever explanation you choose to use, whether it's this is the Vladimir Putin inflation tax or whatever. I mean, yeah, what else is there to say about it?
There's nothing that anyone will do about it other than the one button they have, which is to try to create a recession, which is not working even on inflation. And we're instead now deep into Brandonization, which is stagflation for the 21st century.
Yeah, they unexpectedly added 270,000 jobs, all political cartoonists hired to draw the fiscal cliff in next year's political cartoons.
A jobs program for people labeling things in cartoons.
Yeah.
Taxes, the national debt. It's like an anvil teetering over the edge of a cliff.
Well, I mean, you know, what is there to really say about any of this? Polls suck. You can't pull one thing or another out of them. People will vote, maybe not as much as they like, maybe more than they'd like. Maybe they were forced by someone else to vote. And we're going to keep on brandoning.
Something we've talked about on this episode and others is this kind of like, you know, Felix, you said we are sort of going backwards in time into a sort of EU situation. We've talked before about how culture is slowly moving backwards in time, so that like our current trends are somewhere around the early aughts, maybe. But this is all part and parcel of, you know, a growing political movement, and by political movement I mean some memes that are online of those who would entreat us to continue moving back in time and in fact return to a more traditional era of sort of social homogeneity and social trust, right? Return to tradition. We've all seen the memes, but the return to tradition people are actually moving forward in history. And this is what's interesting to me. Because, you know, when these memes started, they'd be like, return to being a medieval peasant and being sure of your faith in God and your place in his kingdom, and, you know, feast days, and, you know, backbreaking agricultural labor for the other third or 2/3 of the year. That's one form of tradition. Then another return to tradition is like the ads of the 1950s, you know, like Don Draper coming home, and there's Sally, and she's got a drink for him, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he's in a crisp suit looking good. But the latest iteration of returning to tradition would have us return to that bygone era, the halcyon days of like the mid to late 90s. I'm referring about, this is a Twitter thread that got some juice this week, and Rolling Stone has an article about it that I think was kind of funny. So headline, Anti-Woke Crusader is trying a new recruitment tool, 1990s nostalgia. Theorist Michael Young used retro video game art by an unwitting designer to argue that the postmodern world has killed traditional values. Have you guys seen the art in question here?
It's these two toe-headed boys in propeller caps playing a video game, Metal Gear Solid actually, on PSX, while they eat a meal that has not been seen since 1999, spaghetti and meatballs.
The article begins, it's been years since the heyday of only 90s kids will remember clickbait, the listicles that sent us back to a neon-flecked era of Power Rangers CDs, Beanie Babies, and VHS tape. But nostalgia dies hard, and now a Canadian man considered a leading intellectual in far-right media is trying to convince people that woke culture obliterated the happiness you once felt playing Nintendo 64. Michael Young is a visiting fellow at the Center for Renewing America. Okay, this guy's a Canadian, and he's a visiting fellow at the Center for Renewing America.
Get out of here!
Get the fuck out of here.
Go to Renew fucking Canada. Get out of my face.
Yeah, I don't see Center for Renewing the Americas.
Center for Renewing North America.
Yeah.
A conservative think tank that exists to combat supposed threats to the nation like vaccine mandates and critical race theory. Apart from his work with CRA, Young has written for right-wing publications like The Federalist and co-authored an anti-LGBTQ pamphlet titled A Parent's Guide to Radical Gender Theory with the conservative agitator Christopher Rufo. But Young's real audience is on Twitter, whereas at Wokal Distance, he unspools grandiose threads about the collapse of a once proud Western culture for some 220,000 followers. Often this involves attacking woke politics, but recently Young went viral with a different strategy, presenting artwork of blissful children with retro games consoles and toys to play on millennial nostalgia. The overwrought, self-serious tweets backfired as people parodied Young's comments and accused him of yearning for Pokemon cards. Critics heaped so much ridicule on Young's infantilizing theory of a lost world worth fighting for that he locked his account for at least a day. Although already blocked on Twitter for lightly roasting his thread, this Rolling Stone reporter attempted to contact Young through the communications director of the Center for Renewing America, who did not provide a way of getting in touch with Young or offer comment on his tweets. So this is a funny thing because I guess it's just like, these halcyon images of, you know, usually it's like young boys on Christmas and they're ripping open the package and it's a Nintendo 64. You get to play a game, you get to play GoldenEye with your friends. I mean, we talked before about how sort of like 90s nostalgia or people pining for like how happy and they were as kids is sort of like a byproduct of, well, yeah, like of course everyone was happier as kids because, you know, you got PlayStation on Christmas and you didn't have a fucking job to worry about. But at the same time, it's like, isn't on a certain level everyone has this kind of curdled nostalgia for the 90s because it really was like the last decade when like the future existed. And now like we've gotten to the future in the 21st century and come to find out that there is none. There is no future. It's only going backwards
I gotta say,
in time.
It definitely makes you want to go back and apologize to everyone who was a Y2K hysteric because they were effectively correct. Like, because you had the millennium coming and everyone was excited. Oh, the next millennium, what will it bring? And then you had these hysterical party poopers freaking out about some computer glitch. But it turns out that they were right, that things were going to go on a completely different trajectory than what anybody in general culture was assuming at that time. And the vibrations were there, and that they were the only ones feeling it. And of course, as is always the case, like the specific content of their argument, the computers are going to go on the fritz was wrong, but the broader sense that the computers, among other things, were going to destroy us is absolutely correct.
I think it's funny to choose the 90s because that's when they did the actual Great Reset. That's when they actually like did it. You know, that's when they did like NAFTA and welfare reform and everything. That's the actual Great Reset. But I don't know. I mean, as always, I think it's phones. Did I tell you guys about like the trad opinion that I came up with?
No.
So hobos, classic train riding hobos are they had a code of honor. They had their own culture and language. They performed feats of trickery and they were honest in a sense.
They had a code.
They had a code. They wore suits. Modern homeless people are just mindless drug zombies.
Yeah, they would never make beans with sterno.
No,
they would never carefully put all of their items into a bindle.
No, they would never have a competition to become Emperor of the North Pole.
All right, here's my anti-trad opinion. The modern unhoused actually exist in a state of anarcho-communal horizontal organization, whereas the bad reactionary hobos of yore submitted themselves and others to a cruel system of hierarchical monarchy ruled over by the so-called Emperor of the North Pole. Folks, let's decolonize hobos. Let's decolonize freight trains.
I want to clarify, this is not my actual opinion, but I do think a trad guy should do that. Should point out that there was a code of honor. Maybe don't mention those things that Carl Panzram said about being slutted out by hobos. But again, it's not my view. I don't think the drug zombie thing. I'm offering an opinion for sale.
Oh, wait, who got slitted out by hobos?
A lot of people in history, but so Carl Panzram allegedly said that when he wrote his autobiography.
Panzram?
Oh my God, Will, you have not been following Felix's true crime arc enough. Carl Panzram, classic hobo murderer for the early 20th century.
Yeah, he was a very early American serial killer, early in modernity.
I do like people keep pointing out to this guy, you can play video games and eat spaghetti and meatballs now, but it won't feel like it felt when you were a kid.
No, it won't.
He is correctly identified a real absence, because if you cannot move forward as an adult, if you have no hope that you will be able to shape your destiny, which is what the promise of adulthood has traditionally been, then what is left but nostalgia for the total lack of responsibility, the total the pleasant, unalienated, unstructured leisure time of childhood. And so what else is to be sought but making that your goal, since you're not going to realistically be in charge of anything?
I do think he's the thing is stupid. It's stupid for a billion reasons. It's stupid especially because it's he's putting it up like it's a thing you can vote for, kind of.
Yeah.
If you turn out in enough midterms, you won't be depressed anymore. But there is some in the literal exact thing he's talking about, right? You don't have the feeling you used to have when you were playing video games with your friends. And part of that, obviously, no shit, you're not a child anymore. But there is there's some truth to the sense that just being around other people post phones, it does feel like something is kind of lost, a little bit of the way that we relate to each other and understand each other in social relationships has irreparably changed just by virtue of having a thing that lights up your brain in the same way that a fucking slot machine does in your pocket that you look at for 18 hours a fucking day. But that's a that's not like the literal thing he's saying. Again, his point is like you'll feel exactly like you did on the best day of your life when you were 9 forever if like Donald Trump is elected.
I think, look, the 90s were fun, but I think people today have lost sight of a different period in American history, and it's one that, similar to the Renewing America guy, I would like to renew. It's a land that I think we would like to return to. It's a land that I've probably felt the most myself upon visiting. It's, how shall I describe it? It's a land, it's far away, but it's beside the crystal fountains. And, you know, it's a great place. The handouts grow on bushes. The boxcars are all empty. The sun shines every day. They've got birds and bees and cigarette trees. And, you know, you can just pick them right off, have a smoke. They grow on trees. That's right, folks. I'm talking about the Big Rock Candy Mountain. And I think it's time to renew the Big Rock Candy Mountain. I think we should all live there. I think we need to go back to the feeling that we had when we found out that all the rail yard bulls, their dogs have rubber teeth. And we can just chill in a boxcar, have a little fire, smoke cigarettes, and eat beans with your friends. And quite frankly, I think wokeness has deprives us of our birthright to live and or even visit the Big Rock County Mountain.
Well, the Big Rock Candy Mountain it's the lumpen articulation of the post-scarcity utopia promised by communism. And that's what's so infuriating about all of this is that everybody is grasping towards a actual real political horizon, but because the institutions and the cultural structures they live in have been designed to deny even the possibility, to deny even the articulation publicly of that horizon, it just gets curdled and turned inward and made into reactionary fantasies.
You had to, like, if you were a kid in the 30s and you found out your dad, like, left the family and he was a hobo now, you had to have felt like such a loser, like such a bad kid. Like, he didn't even start a new family. He's just riding the train and getting slutted out because he's a new hobo. That's why you fought in the Korean War if you were born in the 30s.
I mean, I'd be pissed that he was, I had to go to school and he was, fucking picking cigarettes off trees and getting soft-boiled eggs that are just laid by the hens.
Yeah.
I got to eat hardtack.
We should bring back hardtack to give to unviable males.
There's a lake of stew and whiskey, too. A lake of stew? Okay. We need to get rid of the debt ceiling and create a stew lake tomorrow.
See, this is an actual concrete proposal that people could get excited about that would not involve doing witch trials on teenagers.
If people had better access to stew, do you think that they would be so fucking, I don't know, scared of demons all the time?
Universal basic stew. That's what we're talking about.
And I'd argue, I mean, isn't that what like witches are cooking?
Yeah, usually are.
In that big pot?
No. They're not eating that.
No, I'd say stew is one of the most evil foods. It's definitely like a... It's definitely
a boiling cauldron.
Yeah, what goes in there? Evil stuff, or sometimes an explorer. It's traditionally the food of pre-Christian cultures or anti-Christian cultures, like witches.
If I can't have stew, then I don't want to be part of your revolution.
I always thought that was funny, like the drawings of the explorer, like just standing in the cauldron. Like how long? That has to take like 7 weeks
to break down the meat and everything.
Yeah, well, he's like always up to like his knees. Are you just hoping that like the broth tenderizes his legs until the point that they just like they're gone?
I don't know. Maybe I'm not looking at the same pictures of explorers in stew pots as you are.
Well, no, I mean,
I always see that like they're up there to their neck or something.
Yeah,
and there's like carrots
and then there's like the chef and he's like cutting carrots and celery into the broth as the guy is slowly on a simmer. I would say if you get an explorer. You're gonna need. I mean, I cannot recommend Le Creuset enough. Some of that enamel cast iron really captures and holds temperature at an even evenly distributed. So I'd say, like, for your average explorer, 2 to 3 hours at a low simmer.
I'm just starting to think, like, just going by the logistics of it, I don't think it ever happened.
Wait,
No way. No
I'm
way.
starting to think savages
Bullshit.
ever put a fully clothed explorer into a pot?
No, I just don't think it happened like that. I'm starting to think. If you're a professor who's teaching this to
I'm
kids,
calling bullshit. Where's Snopes on this?
I don't think it's right that we still think that everyone still thinks that happened.
Oh, this is interesting. Just checking Snopes. It says that the idea that explorers were ever cooked whole, well-clothed in pots is Russian disinformation.
Oh, wow.
Oh. Okay, well then explain to me the lost feeling of warmth and camaraderie I had with my best friends when we played GoldenEye together, waiting for an explorer to fucking melt off the bone in the kitchen. And the smells wafted into the living room, and just there was a white blanket of snow outside, and the mom would come into the room and she'd say, who wants his nose? I've got toenails here, toenail chips.
That is like there's like a ton of stupid things about like making that a political program, but like that specific like new genre of art and like post about like remember what it was like when you were 9. It's like, yeah, no, I remember like the good sleepovers, but I also remember like the average day when I was 9 or 10 or 11, which is like, did I
get
like,
no pussy?
Yeah, get it. Well, like, did I ruin my dick by jacking off before I could ejaculate like actual semen? Like just the weird things that you think when you're a kid. Finding about, you've only known about like the concept of death for a few years. You're still working around that.
The concept of death was not as disturbing to me as when I realized that at some point in the future, our sun would expand to the point that it would incinerate the entire planet.
That really
making it all ashes for eternity. Yeah, that's hard to onboard when you're 9 years old. But hey, I mean, like, overall thinking about it, like, were things better in the 90s? Did you have more fun as a kid? Maybe, but like in life, we trade our innocence for self-awareness. And I think like if you want to add a political dimension to that, I mean, I think there is something very sinister about inculcating in people a sense that they should remain innocent and blissful forever. Or that they need to be, as a child would be, you need to be protected from the evils and terrors of this half-worn world.
But if there's no protection against them, I mean, if there's no way to negotiate the wider world to your demands, to your preferences, to what you think is the right, then a retreat is the only solution, right? Like that's it. Like the only thing to do is to vote to protect you from having to negotiate with a wider world that refuses in every way refuses to take into account or metabolize your demands or your desires.
Well, I think we just need to hang the jerk who invented work.
Indeed. I mean, always. That's always been the goal. That's always been that's the mission of humanity. But it doesn't look like we're going to get our shit together to actually do it.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to wrap up the show here for today. We'll talk to you guys again soon. And just a reminder, we'll be at Revolution in Fort Lauderdale, Florida on this upcoming Saturday. So hope to see you guys in Florida to round out our fall tour, which has gone spectacularly so far. I want to thank, again, Chicago, LA, and New York, everyone who came out and saw us. It's been fantastic. Stabby Baby, 95 Bulls, Salops, LA Witch, and then coming up in Fort Lauderdale, Donzii. So hope to see you guys in Florida on Saturday.
Sunday?
Sunday. See you Sunday in sunny South Florida. Rounding out the tour, we are going to Miami.